Well, Wade, can you tell me a little bit about your background and how you get into journalism?
Yeah, I was born in Wellington and raised as a child, mostly in sheep and cattle country. You know, I grew up with motorcycles and rifles and duck shooting and things like that. Then at the beginning, in my 20s, early 20s, I decided that it was time for me to leave New Zealand and do the UK experience. I think I arrived in Britain, in London, in 1990, where I did the typical thing that New Zealanders do in London, is get some bad labour job and make enough money for a few months and travel. I went to Egypt, I went to Israel, I travelled a little bit around Europe. And during my time in London, I was reading a photographic magazine. I had an affinity, passion for photography since I was about 15 or so. And always had, you know, at that age, some dreams about becoming a conflict photographer, which I duly forgot in my later teens when girls and drinking became much more interesting. But anyway, in this magazine that I picked up in the London 7-Eleven, there was a story about Vukovar, the eastern town in Croatia that was heavily destroyed by Yugoslav army, and it was all in black and white, which is why I was very impressed with it. But at the end of this article was the photographer's telephone. And it took me perhaps 1 or 2 months to get up the courage to call this guy. And I called him, and he was very, very nice. And he agreed to meet me for a coffee. And we became, slowly, we became quite good friends over the winter of '91. And I was, in that time, I was in a position where I had a little bit of money. I had done some work, and when the war broke out in Bosnia in the spring of '92, it was in April of '92, he said to me, well, Wade, if you're interested in this kind of work, let's go to Bosnia. Let's go. And within a week, I had brought some cameras, and he told me the kind of things that I needed, what kind of lenses and cameras I should have for this kind of work. And together, it was the two of us and another British photographer. We drove from London all the way firstly to Slovenia, to Ljubljana, where we spent a day or so, and then we drove into Zagreb. And here I was already, in the capital of Croatia. After another day or two in Croatia, and picked up a few more journalists, photographers, in another car, we went in convoy and drove a grueling 15 or 16 hours that it took us to drive around the Croatian coast, and with ferry crossings because half the coast was cut off already. And we
Were the bombs going off?
No, not at this stage. I did have an interesting episode on the way down where we stopped at the gas station, and this black BMW pulled up, and this guy in black uniform got out of the car, and we didn't really take any notice of him, but he came over to us and says, well, I hear that you guys are from you're British. And he turned out to be an Australian mercenary and a commander of an international brigade. And because of, he said, well, I can help you get through the military zone, which will shave off a few hours of travel. And he invited me to sit in his car while the other two cars followed. And all the way down, he told me horror stories of the things that he'd done to people, and they were quite horrific.
And he was mercenary from which side?
He was working for the Croats. Yeah. He was an Australian with Croatian background. And he told me all these horrific stories of tying prisoners to trees and killing them with RPGs, and how they managed to take out tanks and stuff like this. I'm wondering to myself all the way down, my God, what have I got myself into? haven't even got to the front line yet, and I'm already hearing, these horrific stories straight from the horse's mouth. At the end of our journey, before we got to Mazda, we changed direction. We split, went into different directions. But before we left, he opened the boot of his car and he took out a flak jacket, a protective jacket, and he said to me, "I'll give you this." Actually, I was just in Zagreb for the funeral of one of my men, and this was his. I hope it serves you better than it did him. So I was the only photographer that didn't know anything, but I was the only one that had actually protective jacket. So anyway, we got to the outskirts of Mostar, and Mostar is a town in the valley, surrounded by hills almost all the way around. And it was surrounded by the Yugoslav army. There was only one way to get into this town, and we had to wait until nightfall because they could see us from the other side of the hill, and they were able to shoot us with anti-aircraft weapons. And this guy that invited me from London, when we got to the top of this hill, he was pulled aside by the commander and he was told, "Listen, you seem to be the leader of this group, but I need to warn you that we went down this road last night and I lost 3 of my soldiers." And he, all of a sudden, he got this very bad feeling and decided on the 12th hour that he wasn't going to go in. And here I was, I came all the way from London with this guy. I was about to put my life and trust into this guy's hands. And then in the last second, he decides he's not going to go in. And this was the crucial moment for me. Do I have what it takes to go down there and maybe never come back? Or do I give it up now and never try again?
And at this stage, how much experience have you?
Zero. I mean, zero experience. I never sold a photograph in my life. I had cameras as a teenager, and I used them a lot, and I learned how to use a camera. But I knew nothing about the style of photography that was required for different particular mediums. The style used for magazines or for styles. I didn't know anything about it in general. I really knew nothing. I was 22 years old, and I didn't know anything about journalism, and I didn't know anything about the business, and I certainly didn't know anything about war. But anyway, because the fact that I wasn't actually going to go down that hill alone, there were three other photographers going down as well, I decided, okay, I'm going to do it, I'm going to go. And we went in without incident. We got into this town. And there was a sound of gunfire going off all the time, and we went to the headquarters. They were very welcoming. This was the Croatian Council of Defense. Basically, it's Croats inside Bosnia. The Croatian population inside Bosnia, and their own military. They were very nice, and they showed us around the town, and we were running across streets. There were sniper bullets. They were targeting the area of the old bridge, which of course was one of the first things they took us to visit. They were targeting that with anti-aircraft bullets, which they explode on impact as well. It was quite frightening, but at the same time very exhilarating. Of course, I was too busy running around to actually getting pictures of anything. I didn't know what to shoot or anything like that. But this was like this for the next 2 or 3 days. So they showed us different areas of the front line, tried to explain to us, because they didn't know a single word of language or anything like that. The other guys had a little bit more experience and had been there since 91, some of them. So I just basically watched what they did and followed their lead. And then after 3 days they said, okay, we're going back to Zagreb. I just got here. I haven't even done anything. I don't think I even have a photograph that I would even call a photograph. And then I took the decision to say, okay, I'm going to stay. And I stayed in the bottom of the basement of this hotel that we were all staying in. And there was me and 2 soldiers that were posted to look after and guard this hotel, based out of this hotel. And by that time, I would hang out with them, or some other soldier would come in, I'd try to hook up with this soldier so that I wasn't alone walking around, because I didn't know where anybody was shooting from or which place was safe and which not. I knew that I had to be local. I knew that I couldn't be outside generally by myself, because I just didn't know enough of the ground situation. And then after 2 or 3 days, another group of journalists came in, two young Croatian guys. One was a photographer, the other one was a radio journalist, and a German journalist with Croatian background. And I met them, and we sort of spent the day together, and then they left. And then the next day they came back again, but just the two guys. And at this time I thought, well, we've been here like already more than a week, 10 days or something, the only people I saw from the outside world was these two.
So you were really immersed in the
And
whole thing.
I thought, maybe I should go out with them, because maybe if I don't go out with them, maybe I never go out. So I went out with them, and we actually became friends, and the German girl, Alexandra, we ended up over a longer period of time in a relationship. And the photographer, he's my best friend today. I mean, and it happened that me and him, his name's Darko Bandic, he still shoots and works for the Associated Press. The two of us, from that day, we worked together, and it was mutually beneficial in the sense that, I was a foreigner, which was kind of good sometimes for his benefit, especially when he was a Croatian, so especially if we were dealing with the other side, with the Muslims or dealing with the UN, there was that foreign thing for him, and on the other side for me, he understood the language and the mentality and how to get through checkpoints and how to get places. And together, I started stringing and taking work that I had done to Reuters, and he was taking the same kind of work that he had done, that we would be working together. He would take it to Associated Press, and we were selling our pictures for, I think they were giving us 50 Deutschmarks a picture, which was really only just enough money for us to go back and do it again. And this system that we had together, it lasted for the entire Bosnian War. We've spent most of the war together. Him stringing for AP, me stringing for Reuters, and as time progressed, the two of us were learning the profession. We were keeping each other sane and safe. Because there was many times where he would just say, no, you're going too far. We can't push the line. And there were other times where I said, no, we're not going to do that. That's just a little bit too crazy. But it worked out well. We managed together to see really huge amount of the guts of central Bosnia and the Bosnian War. I spent less time in Sarajevo than the big shot journalists who had expense packages and could afford the hotel, the Holiday Inn, which was incredibly expensive and way out of our league. So therefore, we also concentrated more on central Bosnia, where we together chipped in and brought an old Lada station in, which we called Hotel Lada, because we spent more time sleeping and driving and being in this car than we did anywhere else. And as time went past, our work improved, and we got more work, and we sold more pictures, and we were able to do more things. And that for me, and I think also for Darko, was our education or our university of photojournalism.